It's 10 a.m. Tuesday, June 8th here in Seoul. You're tuned into our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Yoon Jung-min filling in for Kim Mo-gyun. Let's start with the headlines. South Korea reported 454 COVID-19 cases today, the numbers staying below the 500 mark for the second day in a row. South Korea's current account stayed in the black in April thanks to strong exports. That's the 12th straight month that a surplus has been posted. And BTS' new single Butter has maintained a spot on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, sitting at #1 for the second week in a row. The release has become one of just a few songs to have achieved the feat. South Korea reported fewer than 500 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, staying below the 500 mark for the second day in a row. Most of the 454 cases were from local transmissions. Sporadic cluster infections continue to pop up at workplaces, restaurants, and saunas. Cases are concentrated in capital areas, but concerns are rising due to infections in other regions, including Gyeongsangnam-do province. As for the country's vaccination drive, more than 855,000 more people received COVID-19 vaccine shots on Monday. South Korea is broadening the pay scope of people eligible for COVID-19 vaccines. The short-term goal is to have more than 13 million people vaccinated with at least one shot before June is over. Our Chang Tae-yeon reports.
South Korea is speeding up its inoculation process and is on track to reach its goal set for the end of this month.
If people get vaccinated on dates they've reserved, then we can achieve the goal of inoculating 13 million people in the first half of the year, which will be more than 25% of the country's population.
The health authorities on Monday announced further plans for the campaign, which include giving the Moderna vaccine to medical staff under 30 starting mid-June. And for those older than 30 who are living on hard-to-reach islands where there are no doctors, they can receive the one-shot Janssen vaccine, which will be distributed by Navy vessels starting mid-June. Vaccination plans after July will be announced in the third week of June after discussions with the COVID-19 Vaccination Management Task Force. But the rough plan is to inoculate school teachers, high school seniors, and people in the 50s in July. People aged 60 to 64 began receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine at medical facilities nationwide on Monday. 395,000 are eligible to get the shot, and about 78% of those have signed up for a spot. Health authorities are urging people over the age of 60 to get the shot, as they can get severely ill when infected with the coronavirus, and vaccination can lower the risk of fatality. According to research on those who received the AstraZeneca vaccine in the country, getting one shot is 90% effective against getting the virus and has a 100% prevention rate against COVID-19 fatality. And from Monday, 350,000 troops under 30 started getting the Pfizer vaccine.
We can concentrate on our mission through vaccination. We hope that all people can overcome the pandemic any sooner.
Military personnel over the age of 30 received the AstraZeneca vaccine last month. Vaccinated people will get a badge to signify that they've had their jabs, with even an inoculation sticker added to their personal ID. Meanwhile, first and second grade teachers at elementary schools and workers at kindergartens and daycare centers, if they're under the age of 30, can reserve the Pfizer vaccine starting Monday. Those eligible can make bookings until the start of vaccinations in mid-June. As of Monday, the country has vaccinated over 7.5 million people, 14.8% of the nation's population. Chang Tae-yeon, Arirang News.
The head of the WHO is calling on the G7 to share millions of COVID-19 vaccines with poor nations this month and the next in order to reach global vaccination targets. Speaking Monday, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus called for their urgent distribution, saying a commitment alone isn't enough. He called the biggest barrier to ending the pandemic is the lack of sharing of resources and of technology. He added that globally there is a two-track pandemic with many countries still having a torrid time while those with high vaccination rates are lifting restrictions. India, the global hotspot of COVID-19, will expand free vaccines to all adults from its earlier plan of inoculating those over 45 and frontline workers. Thailand is also kicking up its inoculation drive with the aim of vaccinating 70% of its population before the end of 2021. Our Kim Hyo-sun has more.
With India witnessing a steady decline in new COVID-19 cases in recent weeks, its federal government says free vaccines will be provided to everyone above the age of 18.
So far, millions of people have got free vaccines, and from now on, people above the age of 18 will be added. For older citizens, the Indian government will be providing free vaccines.
In a nationally televised speech Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said free vaccinations will start on June 21st. The announcement comes amid mounting pressure on its government to boost vaccination speed and equity. It is also a major shift in policy that focused only on giving free shots to people over 45 years of age and frontline workers. The country has administered over 220 million vaccinations, with less than 5% of its population fully inoculated. In other parts of Asia, Thailand on Monday started its massive vaccination drive as the country has been grappling with its third and worst wave yet. Aiming to distribute some 6 million doses by the end of June, the Thai Prime Minister stressed that his government will make sure everyone can be vaccinated.
We have adjusted the vaccine allocation so we can distribute them to all provinces. The amount is varied according to the infection rate in each area. This is to help further prevent the spread of the disease.
The Thai government has set up massive vaccination centers at stadiums and shopping malls across the country and plans to vaccinate 70% of the total population by the end of the year. In Europe, Spain jump-started its summer tourism season on Monday by welcoming vaccinated foreign tourists. In an effort to boost the country's flagging tourism industry, Spain says all visitors who've received vaccines approved by the WHO at least 14 days prior to arriving will be allowed in. However, non-essential incoming arrivals from Brazil, India, and South Africa, where variants have been a concern, remain barred from entry. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The head of the International Labor Organization says COVID-19's impact on the world's labor market is much worse than that of the 2008 global financial crisis. Speaking at the opening of the ILO's two-week ministerial conference on Monday, Guy Ryder described the pandemic's impact on the world of work as, quote, cataclysmic. He also forecast it to be 4 times as severe as the fallout from the global financial crisis. The UN agency published a report last week that said pandemic-linked job losses would not recover until at least 2023. As South Korea's vaccination campaign gathers pace and more people report fever and muscle pains as mild side effects post-vaccination, many are looking for Tylenol, a well-known painkiller that helps reduce body temperature. This has led to an unexpected nationwide shortage of the pill. Our Han Sung-woo has more on what has led to the drug's scarcity and why people should not panic.
Like at this drugstore in Seoul where there's only 2 packs left, Tylenol is hard to find anywhere in the country.
It's almost as if Tylenol's the only fever-reducing painkiller out there. Pharmacies and convenience stores are struggling to stock up with the drug as more and more people are buying it in case of any mild post-vaccination side effects.
Demand for Tylenol has gone up 2-fold, it seems. Before, people would come for 1 pack, but now they're coming to buy 2 or 3 for themselves and their family members.
The shortage might be due to the government specifically recommending the well-known brand in past briefings. What health officials meant to say, however, is that any similar drug with acetaminophen as its main ingredient is okay to take. The Korean Pharmaceutical Association and Ministry of Food and Drug Safety recently released a list of 70 other drugs that have the same effect. Not recommended, though, are drugs based on ibuprofen, such as Brufen. According to the World Health Organization, ibuprofen could hinder the formation of antibodies. Experts also say there's no reason to take Tylenol or other similar painkillers before vaccination.
If taken in advance, there's a chance the medicinal properties will wear off by the time symptoms like muscle pains or fever kick in. So it likely won't be of much help. Plus, not everyone experiences side effects.
As of now, there are enough acetaminophen products in the country to meet demand. But the government is planning to encourage manufacturers to up their production ahead of the main phase of the nation's inoculation campaign, starting July. 한성우, Arirang News.
South Korea in April posted a current account surplus for the 12th straight month on the back of strong auto and chip exports. The Bank of Korea said Tuesday that the country recorded the current account surplus of $1.9 billion in April, up more than $5 billion from the previous year's deficits. Exports, which came to around $52 billion, contributed to the bumper figures. Automobile exports increased 75% on-year and chips 29%. However, while the current account stayed in the black, the size of the surplus was much lower, as April is when dividends to foreign investors are paid. A South Korean court has thrown out a suit filed against Japanese companies by dozens of Korean victims of Japan's wartime forced labor. This ruling goes against one issued in 2018 by the Supreme Court, which ordered the firms to stump up compensation. Our Kim Da-mi reports.
A Seoul court on Monday dismissed a lawsuit filed by victims of Japan's system of wartime forced labor, saying they have no right to bring individual lawsuits against Japanese companies. The Seoul Central District Court ruled that while the 1965 treaty normalizing ties with Japan does not mean individuals lose their right to file claims, the victims cannot exercise this right by suing the Japanese firms either. 6 years ago, 84 victims and their families filed a lawsuit against 17 Japanese companies, including Nippon Steel, Nissan Chemical Corporation, and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. According to Japan, the 1965 agreement between Seoul and Tokyo includes a compensation for the victims and thus completely and finally settles the issue. Monday's ruling was a surprise to some, especially because it contradicts the 2018 ruling by the South Korean Supreme Court ordering a Japanese steelmaker to pay around $87,000 each to 4 Koreans the company forced to work for it during World War II when the Korean Peninsula was under Japanese colonial rule. The latest case is in fact the biggest lawsuit filed so far by the victims of forced labor, and there are a total of 19 lawsuits on the same issue still ongoing. The head of the civil litigation group against Japan, a civic group representing the plaintiffs, called Monday's ruling unbelievable and pledged to immediately appeal to the court. The South Korean government, responding to the ruling, said it will continue to consult with Japan to find a reasonable solution that Seoul, Tokyo, and all related parties can accept, while respecting the judgments of the courts and the victims' rights, and also considering relations between the two countries. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
The UN's atomic watchdog says there are signs in North Korea that indicate the regime might be producing plutonium. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said Monday that steam has been spotted at a plant that serves as a reprocessing lab in Pyongyang, although the steam's origin is impossible to confirm. He added that some North Korean nuclear facilities have been operating since September, while others remain shut. His remarks came during his quarterly updates to the IAEA's Board of Governors, where he again called on North Korea to fully comply with its obligations under UN Security Council resolutions. A survey conducted last year shows that the majority of South Korean senior citizens now prefer to live independently and not with their children. This is another way in which family structures are changing, but some experts also say it could have to do with the pandemic. Our Cheon-jung has this report.
People in South Korea aged over 65 prefer to live alone rather than living with their children. According to the Health Ministry's 2020 National Survey for Older Koreans, less than 12.8% of the participants would like to live with their children. That's a 2.4% drop from 2017. Announced on Monday, the nationwide survey given between March and November last year, to more than 10,000 people aged over 65 showed more older people were involved in economic activities which provide living expenses for themselves. Their personal income has increased since 2008. According to the most recent one, their personal income was now more than $14,000. The survey also shows 78.2% over 65 were living independently of their children, a jump of more than 11% from 2008. The number of older Koreans who prefer to live alone has been gradually increasing every year. An expert said that could be because of the pandemic.
Many older people have lived independently while cutting out face-to-face contact with their children amid the pandemic, which explains their decision to live without them.
As more than 74% of the participants experienced some difficulty using online services, the expert added that enough social services need to be provided for them.
We use the term aging in place, meaning older Koreans live in the community together instead of living in care facilities. We need more care services that could support those who reside independently.
Meanwhile, more than 74% said the age standard for the older people should be raised from over 65 to over 70. 최은정, 아리랑 뉴스.
BTS' new single Butter has maintained its #1 spot on Billboard's main singles chart for the second week in a row. Our Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
As soon as it was released, BTS's single Butter topped the Billboard Hot 100 chart with an overwhelming amount of Americans tuning in. And for the second straight week, the song has topped the chart, becoming one of just a few songs to have achieved the feat. Since the Billboard Hot 100 chart was created in 1958, there have been only 58 singles that have debuted at #1. Of those, only 23, including Butter, managed to hold on to the top spot going into the next week. With their latest accomplishment, there's little doubt Butter has become the hottest song of the summer. The single also boasts immense download volume, twice as many as the #2 song in just the second week. And it's thanks to 2 remixed versions that have been released. Now critics are saying BTS have likely cemented their popularity in the US.
The fact the band's airplay and streaming figures hold up so well throughout the week shows many Americans are listening to BTS as they go about their daily lives.
With Butter already on pace to better BTS's first all-English single Dynamite, the band may have another goal in mind.
I hope Butter can be loved as the representative song of 2021.
And just as the lyrics say, BTS fans agree the song is most certainly hot like summer. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Welcome. It's time for The World Now, bringing you some of the most interesting news from around the globe. I'm Ji-young. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos will be out of this world next month. He'll be flying to space for the first human crewed flight conducted by his space exploration company, Blue Origin. The flight is planned for July 20th, the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969. The departure date is also set for just about 2 weeks after he steps down as Amazon's CEO on July 5th. His younger brother Mark Bezos will also be aboard the flight that is expected to last about 11 minutes and reach more than 60 miles above Earth. The highest bidder in a charity auction will also be able to book a spot on the spacecraft. Bezos said on his social media on Monday that ever since he was 5 years old, he dreamed of traveling to space. After a long wait due to the virus, music fans are finally hitting the dance floor and feeling the beat again. Albania is staging a non-stop 5-day beach music bash following eased COVID-19 restrictions and a fall in the number of new infections. One attendee said she feels normal again.
I feel awesome. I feel free. I feel like normal. Really, no event could make me feel more normal and free than a festival. And especially the sea people, and yesterday when the first party started, people were talking like I don't know, after the war, or like it was so emotional.
All 10,000 tickets were sold for Unum Festival as fans from many parts of the world gathered. Every attendee had to provide a negative COVID-19 test. Albania has reported just 2 new daily infections last Saturday, and about 300 cases remain active in the country. Albania's foreign ministry released a public statement saying that there are no restrictions in place for anyone wanting to visit. A fluffy white dog is stranded on floating ice in the Arctic after it wandered off from its home and got lost in the frozen sea. But Russian sailors come to the rescue to save the dog from getting hurt by moving ships. They investigated a number of possibilities for lifting the animal from the ice, and in the end, sailors used a ceremonial ladder, allowing the dog to climb on board safely. Then they used mobile communications to contact locals and found its home. The dog was eventually returned to its owner, who had been looking for 1-year-old Aika for more than a week.
Good morning. It looks to be a repeat of yesterday's weather conditions, but with much warmer daytime highs across Korea. Central region, though, will have a cloudy day with a chance of passing rain during the day today, while the south will be hot and sunny with very strong UV rays. So highs will be 2 to 4 degrees higher than yesterday. Seoul will see a high of 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 4 degrees higher than yesterday, while Daegu and Gwangju will have scorchers topping out at 33 degrees Celsius under sunny skies. So a heat wave impact forecast was issued in southern inland regions yesterday for the first time this season, coming 7 days later than last year. Well, it's an attention level, so people spending a lot of time outdoors will need to drink plenty of water and take well care of yourself. Summer heat is in the forecast for the capital region tomorrow as well, with strong sunshine. Then rain is in the forecast from late Thursday into Friday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Goodbye.